Aloha and welcome along. So today's conversation is a bit of a challenging one, but it's an important one. And I want to address it because it's coming up a lot lately. It's coming up in all kinds of conversations that I'm having, in questions that are coming through, in coaching calls. It seems to be around a fair bit. And it's about pain and living with pain and navigating pain, especially in these times that are very challenging and dark too. And so, we need to talk about pain. I think it's especially coming up with folks who are spiritually attuned, spiritually awake and aware, because it is ongoing. It is this global situation is evolving in a way that is very uncomfortable on many levels. And those of us who are sensitive to what's going on emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, are aware of different layers playing out. And so it can be really challenging being with that and navigating that and making decisions within that, and ultimately feeling, especially the empaths in all of this, feeling through it. So I wanted to talk this week. I'll be talking a bit about pain in different avenues. And the first one I wanted to discuss is good pain, actually. Good pain, and when it is good to push through. And those of you that love coming along to these talks will know that I love the hot room, the hot yoga room. I'm there a lot. And it's a place of a lot of inspiration, actually. And that's where one of these thoughts came through about the good pain and pushing through. And pushing not in the sense of, forcing something, because it's never good, right? It's never good to force pain to the point where it's going to cause injury in any sort. But, this idea is certainly from the hot room, and we'll apply it to other ways in this conversation today. But, that idea in the hot room that you get to a pose, you get to a posture, and it's painful. Your body is experiencing something that is uncomfortable. And yet, if you can hover in that space for long enough and remain there, or yin yoga is similar, if you hover in that space for long enough, it breaks you through to another point of openness, of beingness. But it's something to tolerate at the time as an unpleasant experience that can actually be quite ecstatic on the other end of that. So let's talk about this. When is it good to push through pain? Generally speaking, pain is one of those things that we do absolutely everything to avoid, right? We will go out of our way as human beings in our lives, naturally. We will go out of our way to experience any kind of pain, whether it be pain in our relationships, pain in our finances, pain in our the body, the physical pain, right? No matter what it is, or discomfort, even uncomfortable situations or stuff with the neighbors that you don't really want to deal with, right? Anything that ruffles our feathers a bit and is painful to look at and navigate, we have a tendency as human beings to move away from it, to distance ourselves. I don't want to be involved with that. And yet, if we're always moving away from it and distancing ourselves from the pain and the suffering, we can also be missing valuable moments and opportunities for growth and change in situations. If we never be with or have our eyes wide open to a situation as uncomfortable and as painful as it might be, we aren't giving it an opportunity to shift and course correct in a way that moves us beyond a stuck point, that moves us past the avoidance, that moves us past the stuck point, but that gets us into a new vibration, into a new frequency, into a new place and space and reconciled way of being beyond it. So, and I'm not talking here, I just want to be really, really clear. I'm not talking about pain and being with pain or pushing through pain in the masochistic sense, where you are choosing to engage pain because you're getting some kind of a pleasure out of it. That is not what I'm talking about here in that sense. So pain as something that we can be with and address, because it's important for our next layer of growth and evolution. So I want to first discern a bit more that good pain from that bad pain, right? There are the types that should absolutely be avoided, right? If there's a fire, this is the basic one that we all learn when we're little kids, right? There's a fire. And sweetie, don't stick your hand in the fire because you will burn yourself and it will hurt. And there's actually no reason that you need to stick your hand in the fire, right? And yet, of course, when we're little kids and maybe we just need to experience that for ourselves. And as big kids, when we grow up, maybe some of us carry on with that same, I need to touch the fire just to find out for myself kind of behavior. So it's just something that is there as an experience, if that's something that you feel you need to do. But that is a pain that is unnecessary, that we don't need to experience. And, there are plenty of warnings around us as to why you wouldn't go and do that, because it's not a good idea. Touch that and you will get burnt and you will suffer a consequence that you have to deal with, right? So bad pains, bad, right? Bad, so-called pains that you do want to avoid, pains that you don't want to interact with in some ways are certainly in place, right? So anything that's going to cause harm to you or another person. That's not the type of pain that you want to go into, right? And even when I used the yoga analogy before, even though it's a level of discomfort that is there, you are never stressing the body so far that you cause yourself injury, right? That's not the name of the game. So being able to discern for yourself, what is that safe point that you can go to where you can be at a growing edge at a level of discomfort and you can tolerate it and be there for some time. You can sustain that if it's in service to what's going on in your higher good and growth without causing injury, right, to yourself or others. So there's a way that you can discern, right, between this so-called good pain and a so-called bad pain. And some questions, right, to ask yourself to know. And just to reiterate on the good point, on the good, so-called good pain, this really is about what grows us and stretches us into our new layer of being. And you can think here of that beautiful metaphor of the butterfly and the caterpillar, right? It's a painful process that the caterpillar goes through to be in the muck, in the mushy muck of the cocoon. It gets totally broken apart into pieces. And anyone who is a wounded healer will understand this. You know, there is a period of brokenness. One has hit rock bottom, has gone through some horrific experiences. And yet in the rebuilding of that, something beautiful can emerge out the other end. But that beauty can never emerge if you haven't gone through that transformative experience, that pain that is there, that might at the time not feel like a good pain in any sense of the word. It's just pure pain. And yet maybe for some, it was, a pain that was unavoidable in that moment. But for others, if you're consciously engaging the pain, it can be, again, that mindful engagement with something that is painful, uncomfortable for you. So some questions to ask yourself to know if it's a so-called good pain and if it's time to push through, right? And again, push through, not meaning force it through, but push through also meaning be with, go beyond, right? That pain. The first question here, does it grow me as a human being? Does this experience grow me as a human being, whether it be emotionally? Is it expanding my heart? It might be breaking my heart to be with it, to be with this situation. And yet in the part of it that is breaking me, am I able to be with it and tolerate it so that I can crack through and it can open me to new layers of my being? The wonderful Rumi scholar Andrew Harvey talks about, going where your greatest heartache is, right, on the path of awakening, to actually lean in to the heartbreak, because that will be the cornerstone for growth and contribution in the world if you can tolerate that path, right? And if you can be with it and move past it and grow from it. So does it grow me as a human being emotionally, mentally? There's a lot going on, isn't there, in the world right now that can be a real mental strain right now. Lots of moments and paradigm explosions and shifting and red pilling and blue pilling and all kinds of pilling that's going on all kinds of different levels, right? Changes in the mindscape, opening up to totally new revolutionary thoughts that can shift how we have been operating, right? Are you able to tolerate something on that level that has been It's uncomfortable. It's like it causes you a headache to think about it. You don't want to think about it. You're tired of thinking about it. And yet, in the mental stewing of that critical thought, of engaging your critical thought and waking up your mind, if you can navigate it and move through it, you gain things like more open-mindedness, greater thought, sharper thought, more direction, right? But it can be a strain to be there. A lot of us don't want to engage certain thoughts or certain bodies of thought, right? But again, the question, does this grow me as a human being emotionally, mentally, spiritually? There is such a thing as spiritual pain. It has many manifestations, right? It might even come ultimately in something existential, like, I don't want to be on the planet anymore. I can't be here from day to day. That is an incredibly painful place to be. Now, do you choose to move into that pain and let that pain take you over? Or do you choose to proactively be with and move beyond that pain in a way that can take you to your next step of growth and evolution, right? So, does this grow me as a human being? If so, then it's worth considering. How do I be with this? How do I move beyond this? What does this have to teach me, right? Next question that you can ask yourself in order to know if this is a good pain, right? A productive, a useful pain, evolutionary pain, and whether you should be with it to push through it. So the second question is, does this excel me in an area of mastery? Think, for example, here of the pianist who has to play for hours and hours until their fingers bleed, right? Think of the guitarist who's on there and they're picking away and they're getting calluses on their hands and it hurts and it's so sensitive to touch those fingers, right? Does what you are going through, this type of discomfort, this experience of discomfort, of pain, is it a step or a necessary series of steps as part of a process that can excel you in your mastery, that can bring you closer and closer towards an area or a field where you know you are of service and you can give valuable input as a human being? If so, it's worth considering. The third question I'd like to offer you, does this connect me to my flow state? Now, flow states are so important here. What I've found from my own research is those of us who have had spiritual experiences it's like it turns on a dial and brings us closer to, closer in our ability to more frequently experience flow. Yeah. And each of us, also from these studies that I've undertaken in personality here, our personality is unique, it's dynamic, and there is a beautiful and remarkable relationship between our personality, our spiritual experiences, and our flow states, right? They work together in a unique configuration that brings us more to life, that animates us and gives us purpose and direction in the world. So, is this pain, is this experience of pain, good pain, right, connecting me more to my flow state? And you can think here, for example, of, the typical example they give of flow of the runner, right? Where people, I'm definitely not one of these people because I'm not a runner and I don't enjoy running in any form, really. But there are those people, there are those special people who do. And you run and you run and you run and you hit the zone, right? Those of you who are runners will understand this. You hit the zone, and that is a flow state. But in order to get to that zone, it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen just like that. You don't walk out the door, step out, do a couple of stretches, and boom, you're in your zone. There is a process that is involved to warm up and to lead you up and to eventually get you to that place. And it's not all peaches and cream along the way. You are physically exerting yourself. You are applying stress to the body and working the body and doing things in order to move to that place. Yeah. And so apply this, if you will, in situations that are relevant to your life and your flow states. It might be quite uncomfortable in the moments leading up to a flow state in order to get you to that place. There might be certain things that need to happen in order to be there. So is it worth being with things that are uncomfortable or potentially even painful that bring you closer in relationship and give you more experiences of that flow state. And finally, the fourth question you can ask yourself, and this one does come with a caution. The question is, does this bring a reward that significantly outweighs the pain? And the caution with this question is to not be superficial with this, right? Does this bring a reward that significantly outweighs the pain? For example, going through pregnancy and childbirth for the vast majority of women there is an element of pain at some place in that process. There are some who have orgasmic births, and I wish I could have had one of those, but that wasn't my path to be. And I understand it can be an ecstatic experience for many women as well. But for the vast majority of women, there will be moments in that birthing process that are very painful, right? And what is the reward of that biological pain that is inbuilt into how we are, right? The pain, the stress that the body has to go through when you're squeezing, a watermelon through a lemon, right? You have to move something through that is, in otherwise kind of seemingly physically impossible. But it happens because biology is created that way. Divine intelligence has created this amazing thing to happen. Now, the reward on the other end of that is human life. There is nothing more sacred, precious, remarkable as a gift than that of life, yes? And so, of course, the reward is massive, yeah? And so going through the temporary experiences that shift and change and aren't going to stay there forever of that pain brings you to a reward on the other end that is completely outstanding and worth it, right? That's why we do it again as human beings. And, I'm sure there's something inbuilt in us to forget those physical painful moments, right, in order to do it again. Any mama probably knows what I'm talking about here. But again, that question comes with a warning. Does it bring a reward that significantly outweighs the pain? So the reason I'm giving a warning there and not to say something superficial is, the reward, how human life is an incredible reward, if you will, at the other end, and it's incredible outcome. So what is that outcome, goal, reward, thing that you are moving towards that you want to bring into your life? And does that truly serve you as a human being and serve the greater good? Is it really something that is meaningful, of depth, connected to your core and your nature, and, of soundness as you move along in your path? Or is that goal something that's highly superficial? Because, of course, we can always have things that are highly superficial and glittery and marvelous that we want to move towards, and we'll go through all kinds of pain in order to get that. I mean, what is that phrase that they throw out? Beauty is pain, which I think is utter nonsense, right? But there's this idea that in order to achieve beauty or some standard of beauty, that you have to go through a painful process to do that. So that's my little warning flag there with the, don't take that question in order to justify some kind of a superficial goal, please. That is not how I intend that. So let me know. I always love to hear from you with these little deep dive explorations. Pain. When is it good to push through? Have you got some wisdom nuggets to share around this? Please do, or your experiences. And as always, give us a like, give us a love, give us some love, and share some love. Peace to you. I hope you are well wherever you are in the world.